A very good morning to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, the distinguished guests, and really thank ACCA, KPMG, as well as INSEAD for having me here this morning. I won't steal the thunder from the rest of the speakers, but I thought at this short, I wouldn't say keynote address, in the next 10 minutes or so, to share some of the observations that I have personally on the ground. As you know, I come from the labor movement, and we have been engaging the ground, i.e. companies, businesses, and being involved in several of the tripartite committees looking at the impact of digitalization on our workforce. So actually, there are a few observations which I'll share, and also to update everyone on some of the national things that we are doing, and also yourselves personally as finance professionals, as organizations and businesses, what you can prepare and stay ahead of in this current tide. Actually, as shared earlier, I sit in a few audit and finance committees, and since the last 3 years, I think the first thing that comes out from many of my fellow committee members' mouth is, are you all using analytics to look at your finance figures, your balance sheets, your small value purchases, determining your materiality and everything else? So I think increasingly you'll hear your audit committees and your senior management really looking at diving into using or leveraging of big data and data analytics in everything that you do. So it's here to stay. I won't give you a session on disruption or digitalization 101, because that I'll leave to the other speakers, and also many of you, I'm very, very sure, are deep and thick in looking at innovation and digitalization in your respective organizations. But what I want to share is a few of the observations as we are looking at some of the future job skills and training. I think McKinsey did a survey for CFE as well as globally in the United States, and for Singapore particularly, they said 42 to 43% of our job activities can be automated. And in fact, 3 months ago, I was in the International Labour Conference in Geneva. When I speak to the European counterparts, they were a bit more optimistic. Yeah, they said not really 42, 43, but I think around about 9 to 10%. So some of them are pretty optimistic. I remember one of my German counterparts are telling me, industry 4.0 is like, well, it's like industry 3.0. We've been through it, industrialization. But the only difference is that today, the treadmill is 20 times faster. So that's what they are facing with, and I think they're a bit more bullish. Of course, last week, over the weekend, if you read Business Times, UBS did a survey and said around about 10% of the jobs may be automated. But frankly, if you look at our organizations, anything that can be automated, robotized, or mechanized will be automated, robotized, and mechanized. My best bet is, I think they're around about somewhere in the middle, about 20% of our jobs in our respective organizations. No sectors spared, no industry spared, no company spared. Will be jobs at risk. I think we need to look beyond job losses, beyond disruption, to look at where the at-risk areas are. And my best bet, having been involved in several industries from healthcare, financial sector, including now wholesale trade, is that there'll be around about 10 to 20% of the jobs that will be at risk. So I think as head honchos in the finance function, it's imperative for you to take a closer look at this observation. And increasingly, we are also looking at the other big trend that's happening, something that's happening to our workforce. I think besides technology and digitalization and disruption, the other one we need to pay particular attention, if you're operating in this part of the world, i.e. in Singapore, is about talent and manpower. Yeah, if you look at today's newspaper, I was just flipping second page in the new paper just before leaving home. I think they identified the key problem that we will be facing as a country in Singapore. Maybe not so for other parts of Southeast Asia, but in Singapore, we will be facing a talent drain, a manpower supply drain. That's the reality for the next 5, 10, 15 years. Few reasons. Firstly, we all know we have an aging population. That's one big scary thing. Japan is facing what we will be facing in 10 years today. So that's one big thing. Second, you are managing a workforce which is largely increasingly more PMETs, professionals, managers, executives, and technicians. Today, as we are talking, it's about 54% of our workforce are PMETs. If you drop the Ts, maybe about 34%. But increasingly, our workforce is going to transform with better education and higher education and better skills and competencies. So that's one big factor that's happening. But the most scariest part minus the fact that we have an aging population and really a more educated white-collar populace, will be the fact that our employment growth will be shrinking. So that's something we need to pay very, very close attention to. The employment growth is going to shrink for a variety of reasons. First, the baby boomer generation who were born in the 60s, they will be exiting the workforce in the next couple of years' time. You have a large group of them. The echo effect, i.e. the children or the offsprings of the baby boomer generation, have all entered into the workforce since 31st December 2014. So what you have in 2015, 16, and even 17, you will see in the figures that there's a sudden drop in employment growth. Yeah, that's number two. The third one is the fertility rate in Singapore is extremely low. Yeah, we are proud to say we are 1.24. Not to worry. In Asia, there are a few other countries around that range too. Yeah, but otherwise, for SG50 year, where you get a nice big bag, or a dragon year, for the benefit of those who don't operate in Asia, yeah, there's a zodiac sign where there's dragon year. People like to have babies in dragon years. You have 1.3, 1.4. But otherwise, as we are talking today, it's about 1.24 on average, and which is very, very scary. So gone are the days where we have 50,000. Many of us are at that era, including myself, where there are about 50,000 babies a year. Yeah, I know because I look at my IC number, around about 40 over 1,000. Yeah, the last 5 digits, you'll know, which year, which month you're born in. And today we are looking at, my children, and if they are born somewhere in the year end, it's only like 33 fives or 33. It's quite worrying, our new entrants into the workforce are actually almost 1/3 have gone today as we are speaking. So that's we're literally burning the candles at both ends. So that's a very scary thing. And you were asking me, why should you be bothered about employment growth and supply? I think that's important because in Singapore we have nothing else. We don't have natural resources. We don't have oil to dig or maybe resources and land. We are land scarce. So actually, a lot of our energies are, or in fact, the only resource or capital that we have is human capital. So that's why that keeps us quite busy, and that also determines the economic growth in Singapore. If you look at economic figures this year, we are projected NTI just released figures last 2 days, 2.5%, because manpower growth is going to be like stunted to about 1% annually. Hopefully, it doesn't go to 0. The other 1.1 to 1.5%, I think, would be productivity. So if you add 1 plus 1 together, you get your economic growth for the country. So that is why, digitalization and really raising productivity in our workforces and really maximizing the manpower and finding the right talent is increasingly not just an economic imperative, but also an organizational imperative. And as we are talking, in fact, there are a few things at the national level we are doing, and I thought good to share because I'm also a member of the Modern Services Subcommittee under the Committee Future Economy, the Future Economic Council, Future Economy Committee, in fact. We're looking at particularly 23 different clusters. They're rolling out industry transformation maps. Yesterday, we just rolled out the wholesale trade industry transformation map, and many more transformation maps, looking at all the different sectors and different industries, 23 of them, which contributes about 80% of our country's GDP, and looking at where the jobs growth potential are, what we can do for those sectors. Again, these are all but plans. Yeah, the test is in the pudding. So I think a lot of work will be done subsequent to rolling out all these plans on how to outreach, for example, like programs like this, to get everybody aware and really attuned to what's happening in the market locally and globally. And looking at what's happening, besides having a committee at the tripartite level, myself being involved in it as well, and we are looking at also the professional services. I think finance and accountancy and audit is one profession which has been thrown into the limelight, given more attention. As you know, there are 5 sectors or 5 areas which have been recently announced by Ministry of Manpower that they're going to put a lot of resources and capital and energies into looking the ICM, Infocom Media, wholesale trade, healthcare, financial sector, as well as professional services. So these are a few of the sectors that we are putting a lot of energies and attention to. So all of you needs to be part of the journey. And finally, if you look at what's happening locally and globally, it may sound a bit bleak, but I think they are bright, they are bright sparks. Not just because there's a lot of national focus and a lot of support, but increasingly, if you notice, we are collaborating together. So congratulations and kudos to ACCA, KPMG, as well as INSEAD for coming together. Because it has gone beyond tripartism. No? Traditional tripartism is always Ministry of Manpower, NTUC, and probably the Singapore National Employers Federation. But if you're looking at it, increasingly we're doing it at the sectoral level and also in a more pervasive manner, getting everyone involved, the stakeholders, for example, like consultancy companies, academics. In fact, when we were working on looking at future job skills and training in particular sectors, we have been working very, very closely with EDB, IE Singapore, and also stakeholders like the institutions of higher learning, including the consultancy companies, working very closely to suss out and sense out data on the ground, what's happening. Yeah, although there will be a lot of job losses that we are observing, but there are also a lot of jobs gained. So these sectors which I just shared are areas where there will be potentially net jobs gained and exciting areas. So I appeal to each and every one of you, be connected to the network, be part of the network so that we can, not just increase productivity, but at the same time be smarter and do things better. And just a final word for everyone, not just finance professionals, organizations and businesses. I think I call it the 3 A's. Yeah, you need to stay able, agile, and adaptable. Yeah. Why do I say able? Because a lot of the things we are doing today, the skills that are required are all new skills. Skills that we never learned in our textbooks. I like the anecdote, one of my relatives who was studying computer engineering in one of our universities, his lecturer actually told him, just study for the exams. After that, when you come out the workforce, forget about everything. All will be irrelevant. So that's the challenge we have today, the need for speed to market. I think that is why institutions like INSEAD, ACCA, as well as our consultancy leads like KPMG can make the difference in providing speed to market responses to the needs of the industry and businesses and organizations. So that's one, ability, able to have the new skills. Secondly, agility. I think increasingly we need to build agility, not just in the IT space, you all know about agile in IT space, but actually agility more of being able to move across, move within, and also move outside Singapore. I think that's crucial. And if you look at technology and everything else, being smarter, better, it's not just basically embracing technology. I think the key thing is to embrace innovation. Yeah, it's not just making, I was speaking to one of the head honchos of our local banks recently over lunch, and he was sharing, when they implemented the IT system, there was a lot more back office work to comply with the IT system. So that's not the way to go. So remember that all are laughing, so I guess we are round about right. So it's not just about embracing technology and implementing lots of IT. That's not the answer and the be-all. I think the key thing is to embrace innovation, how we can innovate and make the difference. And like they always say, since I'm in a business school, not just value add, but value create. I think that's crucial. That's the second piece. And finally, about adaptability. I think the change is happening at breakneck speeds as we are talking. Things are happening. The more you know, I think sometimes ignorance is bliss. But when you're connected to the ground sensing and what's happening globally, it's quite scary. I know many of you are connected to it. And this forum is an example of how we can be connected to that and to be aware of some of the latest in technology and advances and happening. So basically to stay ahead and being adaptable is very important. Why do I say that? Because changes are happening very rapidly. In fact, all of us here today are the most vulnerable if you are in Singapore. Why? Because if you look at the retrenchment figures last year, 19,460, 71% were PMETs. 71% were PMETs. First half of this year, we did quite well, less than 10,000 layoffs. Again, 70% were PMETs. So gone are the days where blue-collar workers were the bulk of the people that were laid off, at PSA and in the factories in Jurong. Today, the people who are laid off are PMETs. And why? Because of a structural mismatch. Yeah, we have lots of jobs, as I was sharing, a lot of potential with digitalization. We need big data people, analytics, digital marketing, but lo and behold, we can't find people to do the algorithms, the taxonomy, and do the R programming, UX, UI, and your Hadoop Python, what have you. So that's where we have this structural mismatch, which we are trying to solve. It will take time, but in the meantime, we are doing a lot of programs nationally and locally, and including in companies, in partnership with companies, to help get everyone up to speed with this change. And besides ability, agility and adaptability, I think the key thing in all your organizations is to be able to manage the change. Yeah, to be able to manage the change. I think that the change management portion is very, very crucial to succeed into helping your company or your businesses or your organization stay ahead and to really bring everybody up to speed to ensure that no one is left behind. I think that's key, and I hope everyone would be part of this network. In fact, the labor movement has been doing quite a bit of work. That's why we are, the ACCA is part of our U Associate Network, including KPMG in many ways, and also INSEAD. And we hope, again, we are the hands and legs because we mobilize the workforce, we convince workers to embrace some of these changes. But being finance professionals, you all call the shots when it comes to, to many things that the company spends on. The company does, and in terms of strategy and direction, you will lay the plans and the blueprint. So I hope with a bit of my sharing, all of us can join hands and make the difference to make ourselves not just digitally aware, like I said, not just embrace technology, but really embrace innovation and be change agents to make sure everyone is not left behind. Thank you very much.